Good morning. Today is Monday, December 12th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. Today's guests are Mark Soderberg, ADMIS Senior Ag Analyst, and Alan Bush, ADMIS Senior Financial Economist. Starting with the financials this morning, Alan, there are several major central bank policy meetings scheduled this week. What are the likely outcomes?
Okay, first of all, we have the Fed meeting, the FOMC, on Wednesday. And right now, it looks like they will hike by only 50 basis points. In fact, there's a 77% probability of just that 50 basis point hike and a 23% probability of a larger 75 basis point increase. My belief is that they will only go with 50 basis points. Probably another 25 basis points or maybe 50 basis points at the following meeting on February 1st. Then we have the European Central Bank meeting on Thursday. They'll probably raise by 50 basis points. That's down a little bit from what was anticipated several weeks ago. Also have the Bank of England and the Swiss National Bank this week, also both likely to hike interest rates.
And there's other major economic reports this week, looking at inflation, for instance. Which ones could have the most market impact?
So, of course, it's the central banks that will dominate the news. But as far as economic reports, I'd have to say the one report tomorrow actually is the November Consumer Price Index that'll have a substantial market impact, or could. And that is anticipated to be on a month-to-month basis up 0.3%. That will be down from the 0.4% increase last month. And annualized, that would be 7.3% inflation from the 7.7% reported last month. So, of course, that's tomorrow's report, and that's probably the most important report this week. Another report on Friday is the December Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, and that's anticipated to be 47.8.
Alan, one last question here, the stock index futures. What's your outlook there?
So I think we'll probably just tread water ahead of the Fed meeting. But I think once the meeting is out of the way, that I think then on Thursday and Friday, we'll probably see a nice rebound, probably higher prices likely in all of the stock index futures into the end of the week.
Thanks, Alan. Mark, looking at the grain markets, in your view, were there any big surprises from Friday's USDA report?
No, not really. As expected, the USDA did lower their corn export forecast by 75 million bushels. We had been expecting a 50 to 100 million bushel cut, so no surprise to us. That was the only change in the corn balance sheet. So as a result, ending stocks did increase by that 75 million bushels to just over 1.25 billion, and that was in line with expectations. There was no changes to the U.S. soybean balance sheet. Ending stocks there remained at 220 million bushels. We felt there might be a 25 to up to 50 million bushel cut in exports there as well. However, with the USDA holding tight, essentially they kicked that decision down the road another month, with a very watchful eye on South American weather. Wheat, there was just some modest buy class changes to ending stocks, but their total figure did not change, held steady at 571 million bushels. Really, the only modest surprise to us, I guess, was the fact that they did not change the South American corn or soybean production estimates. Looking forward, we look for a larger production estimates for both crops coming out of Brazil and lower ones coming out of Argentina. As expected, USDA did lower the Argentine wheat production forecast, and that was partially offset by an increase in Australia. With the extension of the Black Sea grain deal since the last USDA report, wheat exports were raised for both Russia and the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, their corn export forecast was also raised 2 million metric tons, and this despite their corn production being cut by 4.5 million.
Mark, just talked about Russia and Ukraine, the war. What are the latest developments over there?
Well, unfortunately, over the weekend, the energy infrastructure across the Ukrainian port city of Odessa was a target of Russian missile attacks. Odessa is just one of the 3 port cities which are allowed to ship grain under the Black Sea Agreement. Power was cut to over 1.5 million people in the region, along with some structural damage to the ports. So operations were temporarily suspended. However, they have since resumed, limited capacity out of all 3 ports. This is just the latest headline in the war-torn region. And it did provide a boost to both corn and wheat values overnight, and it just illustrates just how sensitive the market's going to continue to be to news that impacts the flow of grain out of the Black Sea area.
Sure. Lastly, Mark, we're starting to watch the South American crop, and what about the weather down there? Do you have any longer-term forecasts for South American weather?
Well, long term, yeah, everything looks favorable in Brazil and kind of a mixed bag in Argentina. Short term here, rainfall over the weekend across some of the key dry agricultural areas of Argentina did receive slightly better than expected rains. On the low end, up to a ½ inch of rain, on the high end, up to 2 inches in some areas. So not a drought buster by any stretch, but it did provide a boost in moisture in these areas, which should help stimulate a pickup in plantings here over the next week, which is crucial because rainfall here over the next 10 days to 2 weeks is spotty at best, before better prospects of rain arrive here the last week of December. So overall, weather conditions across Brazil, like I said, they remain mostly favorable with normal to above normal rain for about the northern 80% of the corn and soybean belt. Really only the far southern part, Rio Grande do Sul, is suffering from any stress. So we maintain our view that we're likely to see production increases in both corn and soybeans in Brazil, and that's likely to be offset to some extent with lower production numbers from Argentina in both corn and soybeans.
Thank you both. Remember, the views and opinions expressed today on this video are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. If you'd like more information about our brokerage services, would like to speak to one of our experts about managing your risks, or would like to open a trading account, please visit www.admis.com.